Hey everyone, we're back. You know you're in the right place if you want to get right to the heart of what's happening in the world.
That's right, no time wasted. And today, we're diving straight into a trade situation that's brewing between the US and India.
Okay, so specifically, we're looking at how recent U.S. tariffs are hitting those Indian exports. Like, what's the actual impact?
Yeah, that's the big question. Can these big Indian industries, particularly textiles and gems, handle the tariffs, or do they need to make some major changes and make them fast?
Yeah, from what I've been reading, it seems like these sectors are really feeling the pressure.
Oh, absolutely. They're in a tight spot for sure. And, one of the things that really jumps out from what we've been looking at is the demand from US buyers.
Oh yeah, what about that?
Well, one of our sources mentioned this expectation of a 20% discount on goods.
Whoa, 20%. That's a pretty steep ask.
It is. You can see the challenge right away for Indian businesses.
Yeah, no kidding. It almost feels like the U.S. buyers are saying, hey, look, the tariffs are here. You got to lower your prices if you want to keep doing business with us.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That 20% demand is almost certainly a reaction to those tariffs. And it leaves Indian exporters with a choice.
A tough choice, I imagine.
Yeah, they can either eat that cost themselves, which really cuts into their profits, or they risk losing their position in the US market because they're trying to keep their prices the same.
That's a real dilemma, isn't it? I mean, for an industry like textiles, where the profit margins are already pretty thin, a 20% cut could be devastating, especially for the smaller businesses.
Right. And even though the gem sector might be dealing with higher value items, they still have that same challenge staying competitive in the US market.
Yeah. I guess what's interesting here is how much power shifts hands when these sorts of trade barriers pop up.
For sure.
So the big question then becomes, can these Indian industries adapt quickly enough? Do they have the wiggle room to adjust their supply chains or their pricing strategies to handle all of this? It feels like we're watching a pretty critical moment for them.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Adapting might mean finding new markets, ones that aren't affected by these tariffs, or maybe they could figure out how to make their production more efficient and cut down on costs that way. But these changes take time and money.
Definitely. And a good dose of resilience, too, which they
Yeah.
might be running low on right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I mean, this whole 20% discount demand just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it?
It does. The tariffs themselves are one thing, but it's that ripple effect you mentioned earlier, the way the buyers react, that really makes things difficult.
Right, like a double whammy.
Exactly. The tariffs are the first hurdle. But then the buyer's response ramps up the pressure, and suddenly exporters are dealing with both that direct cost and the push to lower prices at the same time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So for everyone listening, the key takeaway here is that these U.S. tariffs are putting a lot of pressure on Indian exporters, especially in textiles and gems. And that demand from U.S. buyers for a 20% discount, that just shows how serious this situation is.
Absolutely. The question is really how quickly and effectively these Indian industries can adapt. Can they innovate? Can they find new markets? Can they find ways to deal with these higher costs? This is a great example of just how dynamic and unpredictable global trade can be.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It makes you wonder how quickly these major players in global trade can adjust to these sorts of shifts and what the bigger picture implications are for international commerce when these kinds of measures get thrown into the mix. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.
See you then.